On the vast, unforgiving plains of ancient Mongolia, where the wind whispered tales of gods and warriors, a legend was not born of privilege, but forged in the crucible of unimaginable hardship. Before he was known as Genghis Khan, the unifier of nations, the architect of an empire that would stretch across continents, he was Temujin, a timid boy whose early life was a symphony of loss, betrayal, and relentless struggle. Yet it was precisely these trials that chiseled his spirit, transforming him from a vulnerable child into the indomitable leader whose name would echo through history. Our story begins not with him, but with the woman who gave him life. A woman whose name, Hoelun, echoes with a strength that defies time itself. She was born into a life of nomadic freedom, her spirit as wild and untamed as the steppe itself. But the ways of the tribes were harsh, and fate often cruel. One day, while riding with her first husband, a warrior named Chiledu, their path crossed with a formidable chieftain named Yatsugai. Yatsugai, captivated by Hoelun's beauty and fierce spirit, chose to abduct her. It was a common practice, a brutal testament to power in those lawless times. Yet Hoelun, with a selfless love that few could fathom, did not fight to escape for her own sake. Instead, she begged her captor Yatsugai to allow her one last glance, one final farewell, to her beloved Chiledu. As she looked back, she subtly dropped her coat, a silent, poignant message for her husband. Asterisk, do not follow. Your life is too precious. Asterisk, her sacrifice, her act of profound love to save her first husband from a hopeless fight, spoke volumes of the unwavering spirit that would, in time, become the bedrock of her children's survival. Hoelun became Yatsugai's wife, her life irrevocably altered. It was during this turbulent time, amidst the vastness of the Mongolian hillside, that she gave birth to a son. He arrived into the world clutching a blood clot in his tiny fist, a sign, some whispered, of a destiny marked by power and bloodshed. Yatsugai, a chieftain of considerable renown, named his new son Temujin, in honor of a respected warrior of a rival tribe whom he had recently defeated and captured. Ah, it was a name that carried weight, a name meant to inspire respect, but the boy who bore it was, for many years, far from the image of a formidable warrior. Temujin's childhood was marked by a profound timidity. He was often quiet, reserved, and found himself a target for the bolder, more aggressive children of the tribe. His father, Yatsugai, a man of action and authority, often neglected this quiet son, perhaps seeing his reticence as a weakness. In a world where only the strong survived, Temujin's gentle nature made him vulnerable. He was frequently bullied, his small stature and introverted demeanor making him an easy mark for those who sought to assert their dominance. The vast, open plains, which for others represented freedom, often felt like an isolating expanse for young Temujin. At the tender age of 8, a customary betrothal was arranged for him. His future bride was a girl named Borgajit from the Anjarat tribe, known for the beauty of their women. It was a union meant to forge alliances, a practical arrangement in a world dictated by tribal loyalties. For Temujin, it was perhaps one of the few instances of stability or future promise in an otherwise uncertain existence. But the fragile peace of his life was shattered soon after. The brutal cycle of revenge, so common on the steppes, came knocking at their door. Yatsugai, Temujin's father, had once killed a warrior named Temujin, distinct from Temujin, his son's name. The seeds of vengeance sown long ago finally bore bitter fruit. While returning home from a journey, Yatsugai was offered food by a seemingly friendly clan. Unbeknownst to him, it was poisoned. He returned to his encampment, weakened and suffering, and soon succumbed to the venom, dying a slow, agonizing death. Yatsugai's death was a catastrophic blow. In the harsh, unforgiving hierarchy of the nomadic tribes, a family without a strong male protector was considered vulnerable, a burden. The tribe, led by a new chieftain, quickly abandoned Hoelun and her 7 children. They moved their camps, leaving the widowed mother and her young brood behind, stripped of their horses, their tents, and their provisions. It was an act of profound betrayal, a brutal eviction into the wilderness where starvation and exposure were constant threats. The family was cast out, left to fend for themselves in a world that had suddenly turned its back on them. Yet, it was in this moment of utter desolation that Hoelun's indomitable spirit shone brightest. She was a woman hardened by life, but never broken. With a fierce love for her children and an unyielding will to survive, she refused to surrender to despair. She became their protector, their provider, their teacher. She taught them to gather wild onions and berries, to hunt marmots and fish in the frozen rivers, to distinguish edible roots from poisonous ones. She showed them how to fashion clothing from animal hides, how to endure the biting winds and the scorching sun. Her every action was a lesson in resilience, her every breath a testament to unwavering courage. She instilled in her children, especially Temujin, the absolute necessity of self-reliance, the strength that comes from enduring hardship, and the vital importance of family unity in the face of external threats. Temujin, once so timid, watched his mother with awe and a growing understanding. He saw not just a woman struggling, but a force of nature, a living embodiment of defiance. The neglect he had suffered from his father, the bullying from other children, the ultimate betrayal by his tribe, all these wounds began to coalesce into a hardening resolve within him. He learned to hunt, to track, to fight, not out of aggression, but out of necessity. He learned to control his fear, to channel his timidity into careful observation and strategic thinking. The hardships of his early life, far from breaking him, were forging him, layer by painful layer, into something new, something resilient. It was during these desolate years, marked by isolation and the constant struggle for survival, that a glimmer of light appeared on the horizon of Temujin's solitary world. He met Zamuki, a boy from another clan, and through shared understanding and mutual respect, they forged an anda, a blood brotherhood. This was no mere friendship. It was a sacred bond, a promise of loyalty and aid deeper than family, sworn under the vast Mongolian sky. For a boy who had known only abandonment and betrayal, this was a revelation, first taste of true alliance, a powerful lesson in the strength that could be found in human connection. Zamuki saw something in Temujin, a quiet intensity, a burgeoning strength that lay beneath the surface. And Temujin, in turn, found in Zamuki a kindred spirit, a brother he could trust. The timid boy, born with a blood clot in his fist, a symbol of his destiny, had been stripped of everything, yet found his true self in the ashes of his early life. The steppe had taken his father, his tribe, his security, but it had given him an unbreakable mother, an unyielding will, and a loyal brother. Temujin was no longer merely a boy. It was a testament to the fact that greatness is not inherited but forged, often in the very fires that threaten to consume us. His journey was far from over. Indeed, it had just begun. But the foundations of his legendary future were laid not in conquest, but in survival, in resilience, and in the quiet, indomitable spirit of a young man who refused to be broken. He had faced the worst, endured the impossible, and in doing so, had begun to understand the immense power that lay within himself. The vast empty plains that had once mocked his vulnerability now awaited the footsteps of a man shaped by destiny, ready to rise.